Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining us on this Friday evening of a long weekend. Glad you could make it. The meeting, of course, today is to discuss the EV charging stations that we're going to be installing in the parking garage. So we have Manny from EV Direct here. I'm going to let him start off by kind of explaining how the system works, and then I will talk about purchasing them and the costs at after he's done. So Manny, if you want to just kind of go ahead.
For sure. Thank you, Andy, and thank you for having me on here to speak about EV charging. So we have put together a plan for the condo to implement EV charging. And just to explain for those who are new to this, there is a bit of planning that goes into this from the condo side. And that is because every building has limitations. And the systems that are being implemented in condos take into consideration, number one, power sharing. There is not enough power in the building for the masses, and you wouldn't want to prioritize 30 or 40% of the building where the rest of the building cannot have power. So the system is based on sharing power, and then it's going to track, monitor, and bill for that power for each individual unit. The nice thing about our approach to EV charging is that we focus on power, and I'll go a little bit into how we do that. So the basic setup of EV infrastructure in a building like yours or any condo is finding available power within the building. We put that power into a dedicated EV panel. From that panel, we run pipe and wire to a parking spot. And at the end of the line, we put a charging station. If you just left the system that simple, again, you'd run out of power, you wouldn't be able to track and monitor, and you could potentially have pipe and wire just running everywhere throughout the parking garage. The average EV driver charges 1 to 3 hours per night. Not sure if there's anyone on this call who already owns an EV, but typically EV drivers are plugging in every night and leaving the parking garage with 200, 300, 400 kilometers of range, coming back and topping off. So at the end of the day, we are designing the system today at a 2-to-1 ratio, which means if you need 2 hours and everyone is charging, it would take you 4. And that's really worst case scenario. If all 20 or 40 owners came home at 6 p.m. and all 20 or 40 owners needed to leave at 6 a.m. and all 20 or 40 owners decided that they're coming home from Kitchener or Ottawa and they need a full charge, there's still enough time and power for everyone. So at the end of the day, everyone is guaranteed every single charging cycle, either through the day or through the evening, to be fully charged the next morning. The system is also going to track, monitor, and bill on behalf of the corporation. So you won't be paying a flat rate or for power that you're not using. The system is going to track what you used and when you used it, and it will bill you accordingly. The way the system works is it is a smart electrical panel. So the condo is investing in smart infrastructure. The ecosystem, as people like to say, around it will change. Vehicles will change, batteries will change, charging will change. The infrastructure that the condo is investing in will not change. It is an electrical panel with pipe and wire and a PLC, which is a programmable logic control that is running the system. At the end of the line, you will put a charging station. And there's really 2 types of owners. There's an owner who knows what they want and can purchase or provide us with that station. The system is station agnostic, so you can pick any charging station you want, and that can be upgraded and changed every 6 months if you're one of those people who like the latest and greatest. So you're not tied to a specific appliance or charging station at the end of the line. Owner number 2 will not know or does not understand what charging is and wants a little bit of help. And we're happy to work with each and every one of you to pick a charging station for you. The last thing that we've designed for this garage, and we do it in most of our projects, is what we call supporting infrastructure. And instead of having, hubs where people connect to, and then the next 20 or 40 just leave pipe and wire in the ceiling, we've built out a network of 2.5-inch pipe. Think of it like a wireway or arms that come out of these panels, and owners will connect to the closest hub. So we have a panel, we have 2.5-inch pipe that comes out of that panel with access points every 50 or 60 feet. feet. Everyone connects to their closest access point, and then all the wires get contained within one pipe. So it's a nice design in terms of the power management. Everyone will be able to access power if, not that the day will come, but if the day ever comes that 100% of the condo wants EV, we've accounted for that. Number two, everyone can pick their own device. We're not limiting you to a certain charging station or telling you have to go through management to upgrade that station. You can plug in whatever you'd like. Everyone is going to be charged for the power that they use. And ultimately, everyone in the condo wins because you live now in a building that has proper EV infrastructure. So that's a very high level understanding of the system. I think you're, Andy, I think you're on mute.
Or some muting. Does anybody have any questions regarding the system or how it works, or? So just basically, we're going to be putting in a panel that will divide up the power and will allow you to charge your stuff, and they'll bill you for the electricity you use. That's kind of the basic overall. And so for on the money side of that, we have been approved for a grant from the government, which is going to cover up to 50% of the cost of this infrastructure. So what we've done is we've taken that into consideration, and we've built out a system where instead of charging you for all the individual components that's normally charged when we're doing this, which we have, for example, the tie-in breaker is $550. There's a account setup fee of $250. The charging stations run from $150 to $1150. There's the running the pipe and wire from the panel to your charging station. All that sort of stuff would normally be calculated, and it would be based on how far you are from the panel. So if your parking spot's further from the panel, it's going to cost more than if you're closer. For the initial setup, so people who buy now, and because we have to have a certain number of these things installed by August 30th, we're giving it basically a flat rate price, which is, we think, at least $1,500, $2,000 cheaper than what it would normally cost you, or what it would cost you after the initial purchasing. So that's $3,850, and that's including tax. And that includes a $500 credit for the charger of your choice. Now, there's, like I said, there's chargers that are $150, which I wouldn't recommend because you've got a $500 credit.
Sorry, Andy, I don't mean to cut you off. The 150 plug is not eligible for grants. It's, again, not us. It's NRCan that stipulates that. So it has to be the two 150s there are just NEMA receptacles. Sorry about that.
Okay, so we're looking at between 575 and 1145. And again, if I believe you said you can supply your own if you have.
So I may have misspoke. You can supply your own, but the condo. Okay, so here's the thing. Because there's grant money here, you have to run it through the condo. Okay. So if the condo wants to purchase that, like if you see a station you like online and you're going to buy it from Amazon, maybe the corporation can buy it for you through Amazon, and then you'll pay the condo. Typically, when there's no grant, every owner can just give me a station and I'll install it for them. To unlock that grant money, we have to show that sale of the charging station. So we'll figure that out. But if there's a station that you want that's not on that list, I have a better idea. We'll purchase it for you, and you'll pay us, or you'll pay the corporation. We'll charge the corporation for that. We'll figure out. Essentially, you can have any station that you want. It has to be hardwired on the wall, and that's the stipulation. Okay, perfect. So like I said, there's included in the $3,850, you have up to $500 to use towards the charging station of your choice. The order form that was sent out does have a list of charging stations you can choose from. As Manny said, if you do find another one, contact us and we'll work something out with you. But the price, as I said, is quite good at this point, being one of the initial people to help us get this grant.
And so that's basically it. We just want, if anybody has any questions about how any of this runs, you can just unmute yourself and ask.
Andy, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, can everyone else hear me?
Yep.
Okay, so I just have a comment and then I have a question. And so my comment is just so everyone is aware of why we're offering this special deal, is because the grant is contingent on us having a certain number of spots installed by August 30th. That grant is prorated. So if there's a threshold limit, but if we have fewer or more, the amount of the grant changes. So we're as a board, we're anxious to make sure we have the minimum threshold to take advantage of this grant, because it is a pretty rich grant. And so that's my comment. I hope I got that right, Andy. The second thing I just want to ask you, Andy, and Manny, I'm not sure which one, is if somebody chooses to buy their own charging station, the $500 credit that's included in the purchase price of $3,850, I'm assuming is not refundable. So that $500 credit is an extra incentive to purchase one of these charging stations. So my question is that correct? Do I have straight?
Yeah, if you found a $900 station on Amazon or wherever you want to buy it from, or we would credit the $500. So because we have to purchase it anyways, you'd tell us where to go to purchase it, we'd purchase it, and so we'd spend $900. We'd give you a $500 credit, which means you'd pay the $400 difference.
Right.
And
so it's included in the price, and people should really take advantage of that in one way or another, because it's literally not money we can give back or charge you less if you just want to do completely your own thing.
Yeah.
Okay, and so that brings me to me as a private person. And I have 2 spots, and I do not have an electric vehicle right now. But I certainly am thinking about getting one probably not later this year, probably towards the fall of 2024. But I'd like my spots to be totally turnkey, so that when I get that vehicle, I can focus on that and not the charging station per se. And so I'm looking at the Tesla 11772 universal wall connector.
Yep.
And of course, Tesla being such a familiar brand name, and the price point on that being attractive. And I've never heard of Juice Box or Low or any of these others. And so is that a good choice and a safe choice, regardless of what vehicle I buy? That's my first question. And my second question is, by doing it now, i.e. August, perhaps a year ahead of when I actually have the vehicle, is technology expected to change a whole bunch so that, by the time I get that car, will it be incompatible, or obsolete? So that's my question.
Two great questions. So I'll take the second one first. Technology is going to change quickly and often, and that's why we typically focus on power. I don't think that it's going to change drastically in the next 2 to 3 years. The technological advances that you will see is maybe instead of a wall connector, you're going to have a wireless pad that you drive over, and save yourself, 30 seconds of taking the nozzle off the wall and plugging it into your vehicle. So there'll be, functionality differences. It's not going to change. In other words, the station on the wall is not going to be obsolete. There's a standard that they're trying to build out. and that standard seems to be in place for the near future. Now, that is always the risk of adding a station. We have lobbied NRCan to say, why are you making owners pick the station now? Unfortunately, that is the limitation of the grant, and that $575 or $700 station at the end of the line unlocks that grant money. So in this scenario, you have to put a station on the wall. I would recommend that Tesla Universal or the LMAC, which I think is 820. The Flow G5 is a phenomenal piece of hardware, but it is a little bit pricey. So that was the first question. The second question, I'm sorry, I should have taken the first one first. What was the first question again?
I think you answered it. I was
Oh, okay.
I was interested in the Tesla
Got it.
because of the brand name and with making a choice today, it is a universal wall connector. So I'm assuming that, you know, I wouldn't be restricted in my choice of vehicle.
Correct.
But you
Correct.
just sparked another question. So this
Sure.
grant money,
Mhm.
this grant money from their perspective is to encourage electric vehicle purchase and usage today.
Correct.
Given that the laws are changing, and it, you know, by 2035, we all have to have an electric vehicle, basically.
Mhm.
Got it.
Correct. Correct. The mistake they're making is that they should still be giving incentives to people to electrify their spot and prepare it so that
Yeah.
incentivize them to buy a vehicle, not put in a station today for something they may need in a year. Now, I understand their rebuttal. We have to show that there are X amount of stations installed, and therefore we're giving funding to that. That's the, you know, we're butting heads on that. But, you know, with NRCan, at the end of the day, it's a great grant. It's a phenomenal opportunity. And at, you know, 38, whatever Andy, you know, put on paper, including tax and a $500 credit, to me, this is a no-brainer. Even if you don't plan on driving EV and just want to add value to your unit at those costs, just to give you costing of what new construction is doing, they're charging $8,000 to $15,000 today to electrify spots. So that's quite a good value at, you know, $4,000 or less.
Well, and the other thing too is I've got 2 spots, and so one of them I do rent out, and I have no clue what my parking tenant is planning on doing in the future. But I was talking with Andy yesterday, and I was saying, you know, as a landlord, and we've got people here that own multiple units, and if I were a renter looking for a condo and a parking spot, and I had an electric vehicle, and in a building like this today, there is no chargers, I'd certainly be looking for the, you know, for the opportunity to rent a unit that has a parking spot with a charger available for my use. A bit of a premium, I think, could be placed on that.
Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting times over this next several years.
Oh yeah.
I'm getting prepared. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Anyway, those are my questions.
Perfect.
I'm in a similar situation, suite 702. So we own the suite, but we are not currently living there. We're renting it out, and the tenant does not have an electric car as of now. And we don't know what the future will hold if or when we will move in, but it is very exciting that we're considering this for the building. But the reality is it may sit there dormant for years to come. So what are the pros and cons with that? I still think it is a worth investment, and I want to thank the board and management for taking initiative to, you know, activate this. So, so I guess, Manny, what are the pros and cons with going ahead with this investment right now? And I think it makes sense to have it hooked up properly, just do the 3,800 and get it done. Even though it may sit dormant. So it may sit there for a few years without being touched. And I guess then the question is, do you swap parking spots with somebody that may want it compared to somebody that doesn't need it? And I've heard of buildings doing that as well. But I mean, what are your experiences with that?
Yeah, so the pros are definitely having this on title and saying that you're EV ready. The pros are that you have it and there are no ongoing fees. So that's something I didn't mention in the opening. You don't pay unless you use it. So There are no monthly fees, there are no annual fees, there are no software fees. If it's sitting dormant and idle, you don't pay a penny. The cons are, in the long run, in 4 years from now, you may decide to take that station off the wall that you paid, $600-700 for, which in a regular scenario, I would tell you, don't put a station on the wall, maybe just leave it, capped in a junction box or put the NEMA plug. Here, it's unlocking thousands of dollars of savings, and therefore you're taking a risk, meaning you may or may not use that station, but regardless, in the long run, you're going to save. The other thing that I'm seeing is that as condos start to think about this, so I can tell you from our point of view, and you're already in our list of condos because we know, you need to do it by August 30th. We're pretty much at a 2 to 3 month turnaround time. But just seeing what's in the pipeline and speaking to our competitors, we were at an EV show downtown yesterday. We foresee in the next 12 to 18 months, you may have to wait 8, 12, 14 months to get this, because every condo is going to come out of the woodworks and say, hey, we want this. So I don't know that the risk of having that station today should deter you from having this great investment, even though you may not use that station in the future.
My only thing was we would probably go with a more reasonably priced unit instead of an upgrade, just because we don't know when it will be activated.
Correct. And that would be the reason here not to pick the Flow, which is a great station. If you really don't think you're going to use it for a number of years, and just go with, honestly, whatever is cheapest, put that on the wall. Because at the end of the day, they're all the same. All these stations pretty much work.
And so Manny, the way I just want to make sure I understand this as a lay person. And so the two options that are outlined on this request form are, the first one is just to own one of the breaker slots, but it does not include the conduit and the wire to the actual parking spot. Then there's the charging station as well. So the way I look at this, quite honestly, is that infrastructure of having my slot on the breaker panel, of having the conduit and wire to my parking spots, that is golden, right? And so the charger itself or the charging station is yes, there's a $500 credit included in this super fabulous price, but that's the only variable here that could change in the future.
Correct.
Getting the spot ready with that, having your slot, having the breaker, having the conduit and the wire right to the spot, making it EV ready, to me is like, and I look at it, even though I plan on living here for kind of forever, but you never know what's going to happen. And I'm looking at the law changing, and these years are going to go by real quick. And so I just look at this price. I can't see this price ever coming down.
Nope.
It's only going to go up year over year over year. And so just I don't even feel like we're really ahead of the curve. I think we're maybe anticipating it a little bit, but I think that the timing of this is just brilliant.
Yeah, and you're a little ahead of the curve, but I got to tell you, especially in the GTA, we have completed 150 condos already, and there's about 35 in our pipeline that have closed already. So we're just seeing, and our competitors said the same yesterday at the show, we're just seeing these condos really starting to come on board now. So you're a little early, but it's not way ahead of the curve. And honestly, I think now's the time. And under 5% of all condos that apply for these grants get the grant. So to lose out on this opportunity, would be a shame.
And why are condos losing out on the grant?
Because there is limited funding. So basically, the grant you got, you weren't approved in round one, actually. It was actually round two of money that was rolled over from other condos who said, we want the money, and then never went through with the project. That money rolled over because you were in that pipeline of condos waiting for money. So if you pass up on this, someone else is getting it.
Right. Yeah. No, I mean, we're 100% committed. We know we have, we know we've got like 6 or 7 spots already sold based on what people have said. I mean, you never know until you have the check in the hand, but good stuff.
Awesome.
How many spots do we need to be able to move forward with it? Like, what are the likelihood? And if we don't meet that quota by owners, would the corporation consider buying 2 spots for the guest parking or something like that to be able to meet the quota to move forward?
Well, we're pretty confident we'll make what we want. If we 1 or 2 either way, I think they're still fine with that. And the sweet spot for us is, we believe, 14. And we have, anywhere between 7 and 9 already sort of interested. So I don't think it's going to be a huge problem to get up to 14. And I think Josie had a question. Do you have?
Actually, it's actually almost literally what was just asked. But can I repeat back to what was just said by the Q&A?
Yeah.
So if we need 14,
yeah,
that's great, or more. If we don't get 14, will it not go ahead and we won't get the grant? Give or take 1 or 2?
Yeah, no. So the way it works is they only cover up to 50% of the total cost of the project. So if we go over 14, we can request additional funds. We don't know if we'll get them, but we can always ask for more. But if we sold like 14, then that would be right at the 50% mark. If we sold 17, we wouldn't get a whole lot more in funding, but we could still ask for it. We may.
What if you get 10 or less?
If we get 10 or less, unless they said there's not you don't have enough and we're not going to qualify you for the program, then we'd only get a percentage we wouldn't get the full 50%, right? We'd get 50% of those 10, which may work out to 35% of the whole project. Instead of getting 50% covered, we'd get 35% covered. And I don't know, maybe Manny can speak to, like, if we got 10, would they still be cool with that?
They'd be fine with that. The only time I've seen them really question and even still give the money, if it drops to like 2 or 3, and then they say, look, we approve this based on a design that you gave us and 14 owners buying in. There's only 3. They will not say that at 10. They have no issue with going from 14 to 10. It changes the numbers, but they won't pull the funding.
Right. So we would really
ahead.
get the full 14 to get the full %.
Right.
But this is we're confident this is going to happen for sure by August 30th.
So that's our timeline to decide. Sorry, that's our timeline to decide?
No, that's, I believe, fully installed by August 30th. Everything.
I'm trying to catch up to all the readings. I was late. It is the long weekend. I was surprised by this date.
We didn't quite realize that. Plus, we were just trying to get it as quick as possible.
So how much time do we have left to decide?
Well, we've put down this price to June 30th because we'd like to hopefully get all the people who want it by then.
Okay, so that's give or take another month. Okay. There was somebody, and I apologize, I don't remember who it was. There's not that many people here today. I think it was Sophie. I think that might be the last question I asked. The question was raised, will the corporation buy 1 or 2? So I am an owner and occupier of my unit, and I only use my parking spot for myself, but I'm only one person, so I only get 1 vote in everything. But I would think it would be a bigger discussion in terms of the corporation for the guest parking, because that would come out of all our shared funds.
So Andy,
to vote for having that or not having that.
So Andy, I'll take a crack at that if you don't mind.
Okay.
From the board. So hi Josie, it's Elizabeth.
Hi Elizabeth, thanks for having this, by the way. It's very much appreciated.
Thank Andy.
Thank you.
But you're welcome. And so at this point, we're not considering equipping any visitor spots, but it's something that we'll bear in mind. Certainly it's a question that we've asked ourselves and discussed, but our first our first effort is to get as many owners and resident spots equipped with this. So the offer is initially going out to, because we should say right up front that with the panels going up, they're Andy, it's 20 spots initially? Or
So I'll get into that in just a minute about.
and so the other reason, Josie, is because each parking spot, there's security so that the power used in that parking spot is the owner's responsibility to pay, right? And so we haven't quite figured out how we would do it for a visitor spot. Who would actually be paying for that power?
Right.
Don't feel at this point that it's the corporation's responsibility. We feel that in fairness, that the cost of that energy should go to the host of that visitor, but we
Mhm.
haven't worked out how we could, you know, handle all of that. But we
Right.
also haven't spent a lot of time on that because our priority, as I just said, was getting these initial spots to
Right.
owners and residents
Okay.
at this special price, yeah.
I
There
can
is-
appreciate that.
There is also a different system that we'd probably use for that. So there are stations where they just take credit cards. So it wouldn't be hooked up to this particular system. It would be a totally separate system if we were going to install something in the visitor parking. So
So Andy, would that be kind of like the green P parking where you just pay for the time and you just load it?
absolutely, yeah.
So I mean, it's an interesting concept and it's definitely an option. Now, question with regard to the payment of this. So let's say you install it in your spot. If I understand it correctly, this is metered differently and allocated differently. So on the bill, will it be a separate bill that will show what this amount is?
Yeah, so this is sub-metered by EV Direct. So you will get a bill from EV Direct every month for your usage.
Okay.
So
And if we don't use it initially and it is 10 months or a year from now, do we have to call EV Direct and set up an account and
No.
and just, go about that the same way we did with Metergy? Or
No, so we're going to set you up once you buy into the system in this initial round. What you're going to do is once the station is activated through the app, you're going to turn off power. And then the next time you have a need for it through the app, you hit a button and you just turn your power back on.
okay.
So question with regard to, so right now we're not living at the building and we have a tenant. So if that tenant gets an electric car, can it be set up so that it's a separate bill that goes to them through us somehow? I'm assuming that's all organized based on other buildings using the same formula.
Yeah, we just do more. The simpler way that we've done it in other buildings from experience is you will provide us with the tenant's email address. We will send them an email with a new activation on that station. There isn't a cost to that, but we just reestablish the connection to a different email address. They will accept the terms and conditions. They will put a credit card in. Until they do that, power won't flow. We lock out power until we know we can get paid. And then once it's registered to them, they have access to that power. Once they move out, obviously they'll remove their credit card. Power will again stop. You as the homeowner will then, either give it to the next tenant or put your own card if that's something you're using.
Okay, great. It's no, this sounds really great. Will there be another meeting because a lot of people can't attend because it's a long weekend? Will there be another, Andrew, another meeting kind of set up and to try to round up more people, or?
if there's demand for it, we can certainly do it. We'll see what happens. I'm just going to explain a couple of things. So we're putting in 2 panels initially, which means there'll be 40 spots. So the price that we're offering here, as it says in the package that we put out, the first 20 we're letting go for that 38.50, including tax. There is two options, and one is to spend the 38.50 plus the cost of the charging station if it's over $500, and have the fully installed. The other, and again, the first 20 will get that price. If more than 20 people want it, it'll be up to the board whether they want to extend that price, but it does start to cut into some of the funds for the next round of installing, so they may or may not. There is another option of just buying in like a spot in the breaker. So what you're doing is just reserving a spot to install later on. Now it's going to be much more expensive because it's going to cost $2,500 to reserve the spot, and then later on, a year from now, 2 years from now, you can finish running the pipe and wire to your spot and installing the charger. Like I said, it's going to be a lot more expensive, but that is an option. So once the 40 spots are gone, you won't be able to install a charger in your spot until we install more of these panels, and that we don't know how long that will be. It's going to be based on demand. So if all 40 spots are sell and you're the 41st person, we're not going to install another panel because one person wants it. You're going to have to wait till there's demand, and that might be 10 people. And so you may have to wait a year or whatever in order to be able to install. So getting one of these 40 spots is actually important if you are, unless you think you're not going to need it for several years. So I just wanted to point that out as well. Any other questions? Okay, so I'm just going to run down the numbers real quick because I did a quick calculation based on what I think will be a very popular choice for people, which is the Tesla universal charger, which is $775.
$755.
Sorry, $755.
Yep.
So the $500 credit brings it down to $255. $255 plus the tax is $288.15. $288.15 plus the $38.50, which means the total to install the Tesla charger is $4,115.
And you just repeat that?
Yeah. Like I said, the chargers, an additional $288.15 plus the $38.50, which is the tax included price. So $4,138.15 would be the total fully installed with the Tesla universal wall charger.
So
So, and then as Manny said, they're charging new constructions charging up to $15,000 to have this.
wow. Now, quick question. So that's a Tesla. So because Tesla has a slightly different system versus some of the others. So this is universals for Tesla and other EV vehicles. Is that correct?
Correct. Recently, Tesla decided to come out with a generic or universal station. And it happens to be it's a phenomenal station, and they've really undercut the market. So it's been very popular lately in our installations.
Yeah. So this one here then, so this station, the Tesla one that is brought up, that works for the old Tesla, the new Tesla, and any other EV vehicle?
Yes. So if you put in the Tesla universal, your Tesla should come with a adapter. And if you're driving a Tesla and you have the Tesla universal station, you'll have to use your adapter. If you use any other vehicle from Kia to Rolls-Royce, you can use the station. If you are 100,000% sure that the only vehicle you're going to buy ever is a Tesla, then put in the Tesla, I think it's called the G3, which is not compatible with any other vehicle. If you wanted to buy an adapter to use it on any other vehicle, it's a couple of $100 and doesn't make sense. But if you're sure you want the Tesla G3 because you're a Tesla driver, I think that's off the top of my head, $5 something.
I haven't gotten a Tesla yet. So, but yeah, but none of the other vehicles has a specialty connection. It's just Tesla as far as I know.
Correct. And they, sorry to cut you off, they only did that because they put in a network of charging stations early on, and they wanted people to buy Teslas So I don't want you to buy a Ford Lightning and use it on my. Today, he's opening up that network, but every other vehicle manufacturer is motivated to use the J177, which is the universal, and we haven't seen any manufacturer veer from that.
So it sounds like this compatible Tesla station and that other box thing that you had spoken about, those seems to be two very good upgrade options that costs a few $100s extra.
Yeah.
So what are the biggest differences between the one you had recommended and this other Tesla units that we just spoke about? What's the biggest difference between the two? And which one would you recommend between those two?
So there's really nothing different between the two. They're both reputable companies. They both do the same exact thing. Some may offer features that others don't, but connected to the Evolute panel, you get all the features that you need through the Evolute and the Evolute app. So in this scenario where you're buying as an investor and you're not sure, honestly, the cheapest station that you can get that works, put on the wall.
Okay, great. Thank you.
And I had one person ask about how other people won't be able to use this. So can you just explain how to charge your thing and make it secure?
Yeah, so there's no way to stop people from parking in your parking spot. There's really no way to stop people from removing the nozzle off the wall. You can buy padlocks, but ultimately what most owners are happy with is the app. The Evolute app comes with a power management. So you can actually turn on and off power. So as an investor, once it's activated, you will turn power off. If you are currently using it and you're not in the garage Monday to Friday, 9 to 5, you can actually preset those conditions in the app, where if you come home at 4:45, you plug in, and then you go up, and then at 5 o'clock, it turns on. So you'll have full control of power. If someone is using power because you forgot to turn it off, you'll be notified, and you will know, hey, I got to shut power off. Again, no one's really stealing power unless you're away, and they know that. Most people who like to steal things, it's a grab and go. Here, you got to park your car in someone else's parking spot for 2, 3, 4 hours to actually take something substantial. And even then, it's $5, $6 worth of power. So even if you are, a little bit lackadaisical and your neighbor does steal from you, you're not out $1,000. You're out a couple of bucks, and you'll know for next time to lock it.
So I have not done any of my research here. So to load a car for 400K driving, so to load it for several hours, 2 or 4 hours, whatever it is. So what's the cost of that to load a full car?
Depending when and depending what the battery condition and how big it is, you're looking at probably around $5 to $8.
Wow,
Yeah.
great.
Or about 400 kilometers.
The way of the future.
And I saw it recently, something about Toronto Hydro is coming out with like an ultra low overnight rate. Does that affect the?
What are the biggest scams in the industry? There is a ultra low rate from I think 1 a.m. to 7 a.m. But the fine print that no one sees is that your peak goes to 24 cents, which is about double of what you're probably paying. So yes, you get the ultra low. Especially if you're doing it for EV, you don't want to incentivize everyone to charge in a specific time. You want them to just charge when they come home. So not only will you have this issue of everyone trying to get that time period, but once you go into peak, and I think it's like the most used hours, right? I think it's, I don't know off the top of my head, maybe 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. or 8 p.m. Your rates will skyrocket then. So they're not giving anything away for free.
Okay, so so the rates to charge are the same regardless of the time of day, or does it make a difference? Like
that's up to the condo. What I tell condos today is our recommendation is right now where the demand isn't high, whatever you're paying as a condo, that's what we'll put in the back end. So if someone used an hour at 10 p.m. over an hour at 10 a.m., they'll get a different bill. If ever charging or power starts to become, between 1 and 3 a.m., we're going to give you an ultra low rate without taxing you somewhere else. And everyone's going to try and get that. Just tell EV owners, unfortunately, we're still going to charge everyone 12 cents a kilowatt hour because there's no way we're charging 80 vehicles between 1 to 3 a.m. And why should one owner get it over another? So there are ways to build it. For now, we tell condos, we can set it based on your rates. If the condo's out $18, we'll make sure that we collect that and give it back to the corporation.
And so from building to building, what kind of rate structures are you seeing?
98% of our buildings are just putting in their time of use rates. So whatever they're paying, that's how we're putting it in. A few condos that we have put in a flat rate of $1 or $1.25 an hour. I'm not a fan of that, just because why should a plug-in hybrid who's taking 16 amps pay the same $1.25 an hour than a full EV that's taking double the power at 32 amps? And then some condos will take their rates and add 25%. Ultimately, we'll put in whatever you want. 100% of what we collect goes back to the corporation. So you as a board and a condo can set whatever rates you'd like.
You've just raised an interesting point between hybrids and full EV. I'm assuming that the charging station wouldn't be affected if you got a hybrid versus a full EV. Are there any other,
Correct.
are there any other considerations that a person should have between a hybrid and a full EV?
So the only consideration is if you are a hybrid driver, don't ask for level 1, because the cost difference between level 1 and level 2 is around $300. You may as well pay the $300, even if you're using it for level 1, and just have it ready for level 2. So everyone should get level 2. Everyone will only draw what the car is taking. So even though you put in a 40 amp station, which can get 32 amps delivered, if you only take 16 amps, the system knows that. And if you have the largest model Tesla or Rivian with a huge battery, don't go out and spend money on an 80 amp charging station, because you're anyways going to be limited to the 32 amps. So buy a 40 amp charging station. The system will limit you or give you less of that power if that's what you're asking for.
Okay, so all of these charging stations on this list, I'm sorry, I've stroked off the $150 ones because, as you said,
Yes,
don't
correct.
qualify. I'm assuming that they are the 40 amp?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. I'm not sure what I'm going to buy yet. I have to think about it. Do you have recommendations on
if
vehicles?
anyone wants, if anyone wants to have a private conversation with me, you can call me at the office. I'm always happy to jump on the call and, discuss it personally with you.
Manny, I was just asking in terms
Sorry.
of the vehicles themselves, do you have any insights?
Sorry, in terms of the
Vehicles themselves, hybrids versus full EV, is there any?
if you're a city drive, hybrids are great because you have the luxury of using power and electricity and paying those low rates. But also, if you ever needed to go on a long trip, you can switch over to the gas. But the downside of that is you have the best of both worlds and the worst of both worlds, because now you have batteries and everything else that can go wrong with an ICE vehicle or a gas vehicle. The nice thing about a full EV is that it's really simple. It's 4 wheels attached to a battery with a body. There's no million moving parts, but you are limited. So if you're someone who drives to Ottawa all the time, you're going to have to stop once or twice on the way. If you're someone who likes to take trips, I personally am a city driver. I never drive more than 150, 200 kilometers. And I have a battery that goes around 480 when fully charged. So I can get to the cottage and back to the cottage, so it doesn't, affect me. We see about 40% of our users in the system, hybrid users. So it really depends on what your comfort level is.
I think that may change quite quickly over these coming years.
Yeah.
I think it is comfort level. It's a lot of change very quickly.
Yeah.
Okay. What is your office number?
I'll give you my cell number because that's the best way to reach me. 416.
Can you put that in the chat, actually, Manny? Do you mind?
Yes, I'm just going to then do this. Okay. I'm going to go into the chat and I'm going to do MANNY at evdirect.ca. And my phone number is 416-835-2688. If I do not pick up, leave me a message, please, and I typically will be able to get back to you within 45 minutes or a minute.
Thank you very much. This has really been great.
Pleasure.
Thank you, everyone. This has been great.
On a Friday night before a long weekend.
Thanks for your
And-
time, everyone.
Andy, you've been recording it. Are you going to be uploading it somewhere?
Yeah, we'll see if we can take care of that. Maybe we'll distribute that to the owners or something. If there's no more questions, I'm just gonna say, the next sort of step is if you do want to sort of commit to this, just to reserve your spot, you can email me and tell me that you want to reserve a spot and have it fully installed, or just reserve a spot in the panel. And then we'll put you on the list as having those spots. So like I said, there is a limited number. And then once the charger's been selected, I can calculate out the exact cost. And then basically we'll get some sort of a contract written up and provide a check. Just email me, andy@myconpm.ca, and let me know that you would like one of the 20 available spots or one of the 20 available breakers. So if there ain't no more questions, I just want to thank Manny for coming out. Sorry I brought you out on the Friday night.
I work 24/7, so I'm happy.
So, thank you very much, and thank everybody else for coming out.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Nice to meet you
Happy
all.
long
Take
weekend,
care.
everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
You too.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Good night.